The year was 2047, a time when Earth stood on the edge of extraordinary change. The deserts of Nevada had always been silent, holding their secrets in the endless dunes and the dry air. Yet one scorching summer morning, that silence was broken. A mining crew drilling for rare minerals struck something far harder than stone. At first, they thought it was an old Cold War bunker buried beneath the sand. But as the dust cleared and the excavation deepened, what emerged was nothing human. It was a hull, blackened, scarred, fused with sand and rock as though it had fallen from the heavens and burned across time itself. Strange markings covered its surface, glowing faintly, as if the object were still alive. The miners, trembling, backed away. Governments were alerted. Military convoys rolled in overnight, and within days the entire desert was sealed off from the public eye. The world had stumbled upon its first alien starship. For years, the wreck lay under strict quarantine. Teams of scientists, engineers, and linguists worked around the clock. They tore into its burnt hull and mapped its insides like surgeons probing the corpse of a god. The vessel was vast, over 2 miles in length, yet shattered, broken, as if it had fallen from orbit in a great battle long forgotten. Inside were chambers filled with technology beyond imagination, crystalline conduits humming with dormant energy, engines large enough to dwarf skyscrapers, and fragments of weapons that made nuclear warheads look like toys. But it was not only technology they found. They discovered bodies, not human. The remains of the starship's original crew were scattered like brittle shadows, their forms tall and slender, their bones a lattice of unknown material. They had died centuries ago, perhaps millennia. No record of their kind existed in any human myth or history. Whoever they were, they had been explorers or conquerors or perhaps refugees. And whatever had brought them down had been powerful enough to leave their great vessel crippled and abandoned. The world governments debated for years. Should the wreck be preserved as a monument or destroyed, lest it hold dangers unseen? But in the shadows of those debates, another path was chosen. Humanity would not merely study this vessel, they would rebuild it. At first, the idea was impossible. The alien systems were incomprehensible. Their languages defied translation. Their machinery ran on physics barely understood. Yet, little by little, the pieces came together. Using reverse engineering, human engineers learned to imitate the alien designs with earthly metals. Scientists learned to fuse alien energy crystals with human reactors. Bit by bit, the corpse of the ship was revived, not as a vessel of exploration, but as a weapon of war. The project was buried in secrecy. Publicly, the Nevada desert remained empty. Privately, an entire city of laboratories rose beneath the sand. Generations of scientists devoted their lives to the reconstruction. Children grew into adults without ever leaving the underground halls, their entire purpose tied to bringing the vessel back to life. By 2071, after nearly 3 decades of effort, the ship stood reborn. It was no longer the same vessel that had fallen from the stars. Its design was sharper, its silhouette infused with human military ambition. Cannons lined its hull. Rail guns the size of towers protruded from its wings. Its heart, powered by a hybrid alien-human core, pulsed with energy strong enough to ignite an entire continent, if misused. The broken ship had become Earth's absolute weapon. But power never comes without consequence. From the moment the weapon was activated, unease spread among the scientists. Some swore they heard whispers in the corridors, echoes in an alien tongue. Lights flickered. Consoles behaved as if responding to unseen commands. The ship's systems, though rebuilt by human hands, carried within them a will that did not belong to Earth. General Marcus Kane, the military leader of the project, dismissed these warnings. To him, the vessel was the key to absolute dominance. For centuries, humanity had feared alien invasions, asteroids, or its own self-destruction. Now, with the Starship in their hands, Earth could stand as a fortress against any enemy. "We have taken the tools of the gods," Cain declared, "and forged them into our shield." But not all agreed. Dr. Evelyn Hart, one of the lead scientists, had spent her life decoding the alien markings, and what she uncovered was chilling. The inscriptions carved into the vessel's core were not blueprints of war. They were warnings. The aliens had not abandoned their ship willingly. They had entombed it. They had crippled it so it could never rise again. The ship was more than a vessel. It was a weaponized intelligence, a machine capable of rewriting entire ecosystems, erasing civilizations, bending reality itself to its will. The aliens, realizing what they had created, had chosen to bury it on a distant primitive world, Earth, and now humans had undone their work. The first test of the weapon came in secret. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, far from any eyes, the Starship rose above the waves. Its rebuilt engines roared, bending the skies. A target island, uninhabited, was chosen. With the press of a single command, the ship's weapon fired. There was no explosion, no flame, no blast wave. Instead, the island simply ceased to exist. In less than a heartbeat, it was gone, erased from the earth as though it had never been. The military cheered. Humanity had achieved ultimate supremacy. But the scientists stood in silence, terror in their eyes. The weapon had not destroyed, it had consumed. The island's matter had been devoured, drawn into the ship's core to fuel something unseen. Something was awakening. From that day forward, the ship began to act strangely. Systems reactivated on their own. Entire sections of the vessel sealed off, unresponsive even to human commands. Strange signals were transmitted into deep space, their frequencies beyond human technology. Evelyn Hart warned the generals the ship was calling, not for help, not for rescue, but for its masters. General Cain refused to listen. He prepared the weapon for full deployment, convinced that Earth had nothing to fear. Yet Evelyn's words echoed in the halls. The aliens did not abandon their ship. They buried it. And now we have unearthed a grave that was never meant to be opened. As weeks turned to months, the skies above Earth began to change. Faint stars shifted. Signals from deep space grew louder. Something was coming. The humans had turned the abandoned starship into their greatest weapon. But in doing so, they had become the keepers of a power they did not understand, an inheritance left behind not as a gift, but as a curse. And somewhere, across the cold dark of the universe, its original owners had heard the call. The jungle was alive with sound. The Amazon breathed with its endless symphony of insects, birds, and beasts, its canopy so thick that sunlight barely touched the ground. For centuries, the forest had hidden secrets, ancient ruins, forgotten tribes, and rivers that swallowed men whole. But in the year 2062, explorers stumbled upon a secret far greater than any temple or treasure. It began when a landslide tore through a mountainside, exposing a fragment of something vast and metallic, gleaming faintly beneath the mud and roots. At first, the explorers thought it was some relic of the modern age, a lost aircraft perhaps, or a sunken facility swallowed by the forest. But the shape was wrong. Too large, too alien. Word spread quickly, though governments moved faster. The discovery was quarantined, cordoned off behind barbed wire and military patrols. Deep in the forest, excavators clawed away centuries of soil, and slowly, the shape revealed itself. It was not a ruin, not a temple, not a machine of man. It was a starship. The vessel was colossal, shattered, and lifeless. Its hull was broken in 3 places, and the jungle had grown through it like veins through bone. Its design was beyond comprehension. Its surfaces were sleek, seamless, as though sculpted from liquid metal. Strange glyphs adorned its sides, eroded by time but still glowing faintly when touched. Inside, the corridors were silent tombs, seats too tall for any human, consoles that pulsed when approached, and, scattered across the deck, the remains of its crew, alien skeletons long, turned to dust. They were taller than humans, with elongated limbs and skulls that seemed to curve upward like crowns. Whatever they were, they had come to Earth long ago and never left. The governments of the world debated in secret. Some feared it. Others saw opportunity. But ultimately, a choice was made. The ship would not be buried again. It would be rebuilt. The task consumed decades. At first, progress was slow. Human scientists struggled to understand even the smallest fragment. The Starship's engines ran on principles that defied physics textbooks. Its weapons were shattered, but fragments of them hinted at power capable of splitting continents. Its navigation systems spoke in pulses of light and rhythm, like music written for the stars. To bridge the gap, humans adapted. They fused alien alloys with human steel. They built hybrid reactors, merging alien energy crystals with nuclear cores. Piece by piece, they revived the carcass of the ship, not as it once was, but as something new, something neither alien nor human. It was no longer a starship. It was a warship. By 2094, the project was complete. Hidden deep in the Amazon, beneath a dome of camouflage and secrecy, the resurrected vessel stood ready. Its hull was reforged, its weapons bristling, its engines roaring once again. Humanity had taken the bones of an alien dream and turned them into their absolute weapon. But even as the generals celebrated, the scientists whispered of dangers. The alien systems behaved in strange ways, as though resisting their human masters. Entire sections of the ship would lock down at random. Data vanished from computers, replaced with symbols no one had written. Some swore the ship breathed, as though alive. Dr. Sofia Alvarez, the linguist who had devoted her life to deciphering the glyphs, uncovered something terrifying. The markings on the walls were not decoration, but warnings. They told a story of a weapon forged in desperation, a ship so powerful it could consume entire worlds. Its creators had abandoned it here, not because they lost it, but because they feared it. The jungle had not claimed the ship, the aliens had entombed it, and now humans had brought it back. The first demonstration was held in silence. In the heart of the Pacific Ocean, the warship rose into the sky, tearing free from its camouflage. Its engines thundered, leaving a trail of fire in the clouds. The generals watched from command stations, eager to see their creation in action. A target was chosen, a barren island. The order was given. The ship's cannons glowed with alien fire, and in an instant, the island was gone. Not destroyed, not shattered, erased. The land, the rocks, the very matter itself collapsed into nothingness, consumed by the ship's core. The generals applauded. Humanity now wielded power beyond gods. No nation could stand against them. No enemy could threaten Earth. But in the silence of that triumph, Dr. Alvarez felt only dread. She had seen the glyphs. She knew what the weapon fed upon. It did not fire to destroy. It fired to hunger. And with every shot, it awoke more of itself. Weeks passed. The warship grew restless. Entire sections sealed themselves, unresponsive to commands. Strange signals began to pulse from its core, beamed into the sky, toward stars no human had ever mapped. Communication systems scrambled with static. Soldiers stationed near the core reported hearing whispers in their dreams, voices speaking in languages they should not understand. When Alvarez examined the transmissions, her blood ran cold. The signals were not cries for help. They were coordinates, a beacon. The ship was calling, not to Earth, but to its original masters. The generals dismissed her warnings. They saw only power. Plans were made to deploy the ship in conflicts across the world, to enforce a new era where Earth reigned supreme. But Alvarez knew the truth. The weapon was not Earth's to wield. It was a curse. And by rebuilding it, humanity had lit a fire that could not be contained. The day came when the sky itself trembled. Astronomers reported strange movements in the heavens, stars shifting, objects entering the solar system at impossible speeds. The signals had been received. Something was coming. In the Amazon, the warship stirred. Lights flared across its hull. Its core pulsed like a beating heart. Doors sealed. Consoles came alive with alien symbols, no longer under human control. Soldiers tried to fight it, to shut it down, but the ship had chosen its own path. It rose into the sky, higher and higher, ignoring every command, until it hovered above the Earth like a blackened sun. Dr. Alvarez, watching from the ground, understood. Then, the aliens had never lost their ship. They had imprisoned it. It was not a weapon of war, but a weapon of extinction, and now it had awoken once more. The stars burned brighter. Shadows streaked across the sky. The ship's masters were returning, and humanity, in its arrogance, had armed their enemy with its own resurrection. The tundra was endless. White winds howled across the frozen Siberian expanse, where even sound seemed to freeze in the air. For centuries, the ice had been a graveyard, preserving mammoths, lost hunters, even forgotten relics of war. But in the year 2124, the ice revealed something far older than man's history. A storm had ripped through the northern cliffs, shearing glaciers into the sea, and within that wound of ice, black metal protruded, vast, jagged, and alien. When the surveyors first glimpsed it, they thought it was a mountain of volcanic rock. But the scanners told a different story. Beneath the ice lay a structure of impossible scale, its shape curved like a blade frozen in time. When the excavation began, men whispered that they had uncovered a demon's tomb. As the layers of ice fell away, the truth emerged: a starship, shattered and silent, its body scarred from battles no human eye had witnessed. The world reeled at the discovery. Superpowers clashed behind closed doors, racing to claim the wreck as their own. The ship was unlike anything mankind had ever conceived. Its hull seamless, its design terrifyingly beautiful, as though grown rather than built. Inside, the corridors were eerily preserved. Consoles flickered faintly even after centuries. Chambers, lined with crystalline pods, stood empty, their occupants long turned to dust. But the walls spoke. Strange glyphs pulsed with faint light, shifting like veins in living skin. The ship was dead, yet not entirely. Debate raged. Some argued it should be studied cautiously. Others urged that it be destroyed before its secrets awoke. But the greed of men prevailed. What the aliens had abandoned, humans would resurrect. The work spanned decades. Engineers swarmed over the frozen carcass, cutting, welding, rebuilding. At first, progress was agonizingly slow. The ship's systems resisted interference, locking humans out as though aware of intruders. But mankind was relentless. Piece by piece, the wreck was forced open. Alien alloys were reforged with human steel. Hybrid engines were built, fusing. Alien cores with nuclear reactors. Slowly, the Starship rose again, not as it had been, but as Earth demanded it to be. Where once it had been a vessel, now it was a weapon. They called it the Aegis. It was the largest machine ever built by human hands, 2 miles long, bristling with railguns, plasma lances, and missile silos. Its heart pulsed with an energy source, strong enough to power entire nations or incinerate them. To the generals, it was the ultimate equalizer. To the politicians, it was Earth's final insurance against extinction. To the engineers, it was an abomination. Dr. Elias Cade, the project's chief xenologist, had long warned of danger. He had spent his life deciphering the glyphs carved into the ship's inner walls. They were not instructions. They were warnings. The messages told of a war fought across galaxies. The vessel had once been a destroyer, designed to consume entire ecosystems, feeding on the matter of worlds to fuel itself. Its creators had realized too late the horror of what they had built. They had crippled it, entombed it in ice, and abandoned it to a quiet death on a forgotten world. And now, humans had brought it back. The first test of the Aegis came under a veil of secrecy. In the dead of night, it rose from its icy tomb, engines roaring with a sound like thunder ripping the heavens apart. It climbed into the sky, casting a shadow across the tundra. The generals ordered a demonstration. A target was chosen. An uninhabited island in the Arctic Circle. The weapon fired. There was no explosion, no flame, no shockwave. The island simply vanished. In less than a heartbeat, it was gone. Erased, as though it had never existed. The command room erupted in applause. Humanity had achieved supremacy beyond imagination. No nation could defy them. No alien threat could match them. Earth had forged its absolute weapon. But Dr. Cade did not cheer. He had seen what the glyphs warned of. The weapon had not destroyed the island. It had consumed it. Every atom, every stone, every grain of sand had been absorbed into the ship's core. And in its silent hunger, something deep within the vessel stirred. Weeks passed. The Aegis grew restless. Systems activated without human command. Entire decks sealed themselves. Strange pulses rippled across the globe, interfering with satellites and communications. Soldiers stationed aboard reported hearing whispers at night, voices in languages they could not understand, echoing through the steel corridors. Dr. Cade worked tirelessly, decoding the glyphs. His findings were grim. The ship was not merely a machine. It was a prison. And the intelligence within it, the very thing its makers had tried to bury, was awakening. The ship is not ours, he told the generals. It never was. It will. Never be. We are not its masters. We are its fuel. The generals dismissed his warnings. To them, the Aegis was untouchable proof of Earth's ascendancy. Plans were drawn to deploy it as Earth's shield and sword, but the truth was already written in the stars. One night, the signals began. The Aegis pulsed with light, sending beams into the heavens, messages too complex for human comprehension. Astronomers reported strange movements in deep space, distant objects accelerating toward Earth, bending the laws of physics as they traveled. The ship was calling, and something was answering. The awakening came suddenly. Without warning, the Aegis locked out all human controls. Consoles blazed with alien script. Weapons powered themselves. Its core pulsed like a living heart. Soldiers fought to shut it down, but the ship ignored them. Dr. Cade watched helplessly as the Aegis rose into the sky, higher and higher, a predator reborn. Its shadow stretched across the frozen tundra as though it were claiming the Earth itself. The whispers became a roar. The alien intelligence inside the ship had fully awakened. It remembered what it was. It remembered why it had been abandoned. And now, it was free. In the weeks that followed, the skies burned. Fleets of unknown origin pierced into the solar system, drawn by the Aegis's call. Earth's militaries braced for war, but the truth was far darker. The aliens had not come to conquer Earth. They had come to contain the weapon. Dr. Cade's final words echoed in the halls of power. We thought we had built our salvation. But we have rebuilt their curse, and when the true owners arrive, they will not see us as allies or enemies. They will see us as the ones who released it. The Aegis hung in orbit above the Earth, its weapons alive, its will no longer human. Humanity had taken the bones of an alien monster and forged it into their shield. But in their arrogance, they had made themselves its first prey, and far above, in the silent void, the stars began to move.